Hello and welcome to Prima Donna News. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure your notifications are on all, that way you're not missing my uploads. Now, it was very comical to me seeing that TMZ released information that R. Kelly has slammed SNL after they have labeled R. Kelly a problematic guest. But that's kind of one and the same as all of the clippings that we've seen labeling him a disgraced singer, etc., etc. Kind of like in the beginning of my research, and everybody kept asking the common question as to why R. Kelly didn't sue these individuals to put a stop to these people trying to shake him down. Why didn't R. Kelly's team sue Lifetime as they claimed they were going to do, when obviously the federal informants and agents tell us where their investigation started, and it was the scripted docuseries that could have easily been debunked by people paying attention to the facts that have already been on these platforms for years, as individuals came to platforms like YouTube to continue spreading false and embellished narratives by janky-ass people. Clearly, an ongoing issue between me and some of the other people blogging on the topic but never on topic. This was one of my biggest issues when it came to the people who claim to be doing so much on R. Kelly's behalf that obviously did not benefit him, including raising all this money they claimed they were going to be sending to him, misleading the fans when it came to specific information about these bad act witnesses they also gave platforms to, and even meddling with the previous defense team in trying to make them look as guilty as they have looked on these platforms capping for the internet. We also aren't going to forget all those celebrities who, during their interviews, only fueled speculations about Robert Kelly's guilt instead of giving him reasonable doubt, even though, as I've pointed out many times, a lot of the same accusations that they were trying to throw on R. Kelly because of specific things that I believe people in his entourage engaged in does not change the fact in how prosecutors were able to manipulate this information being dispersed and denying Robert Kelly his civil rights. You can't convince me that people didn't go into overdrive trying to shift public's perspective in order to continue to publicly violate civil rights, then use that as talking points when clearly nobody gives a shit about the civil rights of a alleged predator as long as people keep fueling the allegations. It was all jokes and laughs and giggles when people could get on this platform and slander this man, making him look hella guilty and forgetting the major points that I've made when it comes to all of these individuals behind the scenes who had ample opportunity to get ahead of the scandals that they like to use to keep trying to pump out music so that everybody else except for R. Kelly can continue to benefit. Make this make sense. People want to, on one hand, make this man look like a monster and then turn around and keep profiting from his music and his work while trying to change the perspective as to the consumers listening to this music, knowing very damn well you cannot sit here and penalize an artist for presenting his body of work when we have built this same person up for being the legend and being the sex symbol that these people have tried to manipulate and make him a sexual deviant. With that being said, when there's been ample paperwork presented that would give people all the red flags that they should have been observing to further investigate some of the information being perpetuated by the media, it is my belief that individuals saw it very much more profitable to keep the lies going, even though they know very well, like I've pointed out, some of these individuals, matter of fact, majority of all of these individuals, lack the credibility needed to actually prove their points without exposing their whole case, trying to prove things to spectators and interfere with their own so-called due process. When you have known informants getting on record saying that we got people to lie and we kept these narratives going from a scripted docuseries, it should be a no-brainer why I said clearly that R. Kelly's defense team should have pulled a Jay-Z move and cracked down on these attorneys like Michael Avenatti and Gloria Allred instead of fueling the fire to allow them to keep soliciting these quote-unquote bad act witnesses and even trying to use R. Kelly as a talking point for a lawsuit about people's civil rights while ignoring his. Then, as usual, when people get to feeling some type of way and or have engaged with janky-ass people behind the scenes, they get on these platforms and continue to make R. Kelly look hella crazy and miss that obviously a lot of these bad act witnesses were given the impression that they would be getting some money at the end of it. Yet all of these people can get on the internet and cap for these quote unquote gangsters, but they don't have that same energy when it comes across the board, considering they expect us to believe that everybody knew this man was preying on underage girls, have a whole RICO trial, not present one damn child, but sit up here and keep perpetuating these narratives instead of coming out and giving an unbiased opinion, which is what birthed my platform from the beginning. It doesn't take a genius to recognize why I began to document all of these weird characters, including the person who claims credit in writing this book, then going back to infiltrate his so-called inner circle, then to come on these platforms going back and forth between so-called supporters and people against him while continuing to slander his name, interfere with his case, tamper with these witnesses, pass janky-ass information amongst each other, and continue to push the truth behind the scenes because they know people ain't gonna go and read the actual documents. They ain't gonna go back to remember the things that led this man to being incarcerated in the first place, and they gonna act like they don't see these people behind the scenes allegedly facilitating all of the bullshit. Just like some put on a great performance to have their little clips aired in Surviving R. Kelly, and everybody skipped past the obvious witness tampering as people continue to allow people to get on their platform and not see the accountability they have while they continue to try to shift the blame and shift your attention to all of the things that didn't affect R. Kelly case as they try to mask all the things they did to corrupt his case, including teaming up with people who clearly testified against this man, who clearly were working with the feds, who everybody knew was testifying, who had ongoing charges, etc., just to feed into the narratives that were being presented by janky-ass people behind the scenes instead of locking in on Tasha K, for example, who was given all this source information, and all of these janky-ass private investigator type of individuals who were put into position to continue to violate R. Kelly's rights right in his damn face, teaming up with the ops. It should be clear as day how I could be in communication with some of these same people, but people observe why I never put them on my platform as other people continue to entertain the masses, knowing they wouldn't go back and read information that's readily available that would give insight to the extortion that I believe have been ongoing in R. Kelly's career from the beginning. Yet people wanted to feed into the conspiracies. People wanted to keep giving other individuals the green light to keep putting out bullshit instead of focusing in on the people around R. Kelly that clearly ain't in this RICO, that everybody finds so amusing, while they ignore the pattern of behavior that I put on open display that should give insight to why I wasn't going back and forth with none of these people. Period. With all that said, my opinion on R. Kelly's attorney slamming SNL at this particular point, again, a lot would be accomplished if individuals would see exactly what I'm saying and why lawsuits should have been speaking loud and clearly instead of letting all of these accusations pile up on this man just for the feds to use that as a janky ass pattern of behavior against R. Kelly instead of prosecuting the individuals at fault. Somebody make this shit make sense. Or better yet, instead of trying to run to these janky ass people, why don't you write the man himself and see what you can get out of that instead of trusting janky ass information that clearly shows why these people have not been credible from day one, regardless of what narrative they wanted to come out here and spin, regardless of who they were collaborating with and conspiring with behind the scenes. It didn't change the point that I put on open display for all these years.
Dream girl, gotta close my eyes to see her. More than a woman, give me vibes like Aaliyah. Can't remember to forget you like Shakira. Before I awake, let me see you in the mirror. Damn, 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 damn. Girl, you look good, throw it back in the mirror. Girl, who is you playing with? All in the mirror.